Welcome to How to Grow Using AI, Machine Learning, and Intelligent Automation, a podcast by eClerks. We explore how AI and machine learning are being used to scale businesses from end to end. But that's not all. In each episode, our industry experts dive deep into topics like AI-enabled sales optimization, predictive analytics, AI-powered marketing, and machine learning for product personalization. I promise to give you the goods, the insights, and the strategies that you need to grow your business. I am your host, Nicholas Cole. Thank you for joining us today. I am excited. If you're an organization or a business that wants to know how to grow using AI, machine learning, or intelligent automation, boy, do I have a treat for you today. Today, I have joining me Paul Singh. He is the acting COO at Modern Data Company. He also serves as a professor at Northeastern University. He also serves as a mentor at Google Launchpad. So he is in the thick of things. He is deep in the trenches when it comes to technology, when it comes to AI. And so we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about technology. We're going to talk about all things AI. But before we get into that, Paul, why don't you introduce yourself and let us know a little bit more about your roles?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Nicholas. And thanks for having me. As far as my background, I've been an entrepreneur, have done multiple startups, taken one company public, and have been lucky enough to sell the others, and one didn't make it as well. And so have been through the hard knock of entrepreneurship and been through the trenches in various roles in sales, marketing, business development, CEO, you name it, except for engineering. And anybody who has been a startup founder, they know that they adopt various roles as they go along in their life cycle. So I have done all of those. And now I work with various startups. And right now I'm focused at helping a Modern Data Company and as their acting COO, as well as on the board of a couple of other startups, as well as an investor, and then also help young entrepreneurs as part of my teaching. And I'm an adjunct professor at Northeastern University. And so that's my background.
Wow. You mentioned hard knocks and you mentioned how you mentor young entrepreneurs. And so in your experience, what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs or new business owners to be successful in terms of implementing technology and what they're doing?
So I have this formula that over the years I've kind of developed. I say that an entrepreneurship is about 3 times passion plus 2 times execution and plus 1 time practicality. Meaning, if you don't have the passion for the idea, you could have everything else, you're not going to succeed. Because once you have a passion, you can go through bricks and solve something. However, if you only have passion but no execution skill, you're not going to make it either. And then you have passion and execution, but a lot of times you are trying to hit on something that is just not going to hunt. So you have to have an idea to say when to quit and move on and pivot to something that is actually going to work.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Those are some things that seems like a large organization could consider at the same time. And so entrepreneurship, and even if you're an enterprise business, you still have to go through all 3 of those steps. And so one of the things that has dominated the news, dominated the industry, no matter what industry you're in, is generative AI. So that's the big thing. That's the hot thing. And so if I'm an enterprise company or if I'm a startup company or well-established company, obviously I want to increase my productivity. I want to increase my profits. And so I'm looking at this thing, this AI, this generative AI. So what would you say to a company like that that's looking to get into generative AI? Where do they start?
So first of all, I think in our industry, we are expert at creating hype. And generally, hype and reality have some distance between them. And I think Gen AI is kind of in that phase, to be very frank. I think you kind of know the Gartner hype cycle, right? So we follow that, the hype goes up. And at that time, the products still aren't there from a usability point of view. They're great from an engineering point of view, but they're not really usable. And then the hype dies down, but that's when the products start to get built. And then there is a new cycle which starts again on the upswing. So I think we are kind of in that hype cycle has reached the maximum. And now various products/applications are being built, even though the infrastructure is there, but the usability is not yet. So we have to figure out how do we get on that early. As a small company, we got to get there early. Big companies have the luxury of waiting, but small companies don't. So I think we have to all get on that train to learn what and how it is going to work for my business. But don't take the hype as reality.
Right. Okay. So that hype cycle that you mentioned. So regardless if you're a small company, startup company, an enterprise company, the key to success, I believe, is selecting the right technology. No matter what phase you're in, I have to have the right technology. And so could you give me an idea based on your experience, how would a company go about selecting the right technology based on their goal?
So I'll tell you, in the world of Gen AI today, it's a very hard thing to do. And I'll explain why. So, for example, right now, when I look at doing something, I have both my Bard open, which is now Newton, and I also have my OpenAI ChatGPT open. And when I ask, and I take the same question and apply to both and see what answers I get. And sometimes both are inaccurate or missing critical details. And sometimes they both create amazing answers. Sometimes one creates better answer than the other. So I think depends on your business, right? If I am in a business of, say, I'm running a marketing agency, it behooves me to actually try every marketing new gizmo that is coming in to see where and how I can actually get my team to be more productive. However, let's not use them blindly because there is a lot of hallucination. There is a lot of wrong information. So I'll give you an example. So yesterday, I was researching something and I know the area, but I was saying, okay, maybe I'm missing something. So I asked the question of, hey, what are these different services, third-party services in such and such industry? And it gives me a very long, comprehensive list of 10 different things, very nicely organized. And if I don't know the industry, I would take that as Bible and go and start cashing my checks on it, which are going to all not clear, right? Then I said, hey, how about such and such, which I know exists and you don't have it in your list? And then it suddenly says, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it should be included. And oh, by the way, here are the details of this. I said, okay, great. But then I see that you don't have another important source in this information. So then I finally got frustrated. And like we talked to a human being, I said, okay, so now can you figure out, like you missed these three things that I already know. Can you create a comprehensive list which includes these three and other things which are more useful and prioritize? And it did it, but now I don't know if I believe it. Now my trust level is down. So I think this thing about like, oh, I can eliminate jobs tomorrow and everything is wonderful is probably a myth at this stage, right? It may get better and better for sure. But today, I'm saying one has to experiment. If you are in marketing, you got to see how do I use these tools, right? So we have internally in the company, we have trained OpenAI with all of our internal data. We experiment, we are able to create. So I can get much better ideas, right? So a lot of times it takes me manually too much time to come up with that original idea. So I use it for that purpose. It works really beautifully. But don't think that everything that it is telling you is right. Then a lot of times I'm like struggling and saying, okay, can you give me an email on this? I'm going to approach so and what do you think? And it will come up with an email, but I'll say, look, I never write English like this. That's not me. Can you make it less formal? And then it'll start to make it less formal. And then suddenly my 200 word thing will become 600 words or something. It's like, no, 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 no. I don't want that. So it's a process of iteration we go through. And sometimes I think to myself saying, was I better off doing it myself? Did I really gain anything? Maybe not today, but as I use it more, I will gain it. So it is kind of like that, right? It's a very iterative process at this stage. If you get frustrated and move on, you won't get there. And every day somebody's putting out a YouTube video saying, oh, here are my prompts that do better. Somebody put out a prompt the other day about how do you do comparative research on this. And I was like, okay, maybe I haven't figured out. I'll use their method. And, not really. It doesn't quite work because everything is slightly different, right? You are going against a bot where there is a huge database and you got to make sure that you can get exact right question to be answered by this, which meets your needs. So if you don't have any idea of what the answer looks like, please don't use it because it is not reliable. But if you know something about it, it is really good.
Yeah, it is. I'm tickled a little bit because I've also experienced those things. I have Copilot up on one browser, then I have ChatGPT, and then put in some information, and then basically, like you said, it gives out some wrong information. Then I say, "Hey, go and change this. You left this out," and then it'll say, "Oh, yes, that should be in there." Very interesting. And so, in essence, what you're saying is, although we have all this technology out there, we're excited about this technology, yet there are still some challenges with it. So, with that being said, in your experience, when it comes to implementing AI, what are some of the biggest obstacles or challenges that organizations face?
So I think it depends on the size of the organization first. And also within the organization, there are certain functions which are probably better served today with this than others. If I want my coding assistant or copilot for my coding help, it's probably a great tool. One of my friends said, as a engineer working for a number of years, I felt that the younger engineers were always faster than me in doing the coding, even though I know architecturally better than them. But now he feels, oh, ChatGPT or Copilot or one of these tools makes me as fast as the younger guys. So there is an advantage. And he says, because I know architecturally what it should be, I can figure out the problems that it made in the coding, just like I do when I talk to a younger programmer and I say, okay, you made these mistakes. So that part of it, it's very useful, right? Once you realize that and you know the limitations, it can be very beneficial. Similarly, when I am doing the original marketing research and all that. So like one of the things I do for the last semester and this semester as well, I'm encouraging my students to do a project where they have to pick 3 companies. So for example, they have to pick a prompt to video, prompt to coding, prompt to audio, or whatever they want, or look at various tools that are just coming in for Gen AI marketing tools, such as copy.ai or jasper.ai or any of those tools. And I tell them, pick 3 products. You have to try them. You have to research them. This is what I teach them to do competitive analysis on right now. That's their physical project that they have to do to give me a competitive analysis, how they would do it if they were being an entrepreneur initially doing competitive analysis, because I teach them how to do competitive analysis. So in this case, I'm saying, okay, now you show me you've learned something that you can actually go do a competitive analysis on these, because it's changing so fast that what my students told me last semester may be very different this semester.
So, you mentioned competitive analysis. And so, I wanted to kind of double down on that in a slightly different way. So just say that, hey, I'm an organization. We're interested in getting into AI, machine learning, intelligent automation, and all of that good stuff. But yet we're a little concerned about data privacy. We don't know what happens to the data. And so that's slowing us from making a decision to just jumping in to AI and generative AI. So what would you say to those organizations that feel that way, that have those kind of concerns?
So I think the data, this privacy, security, sometimes we put a very broad brush, and that is not really correct. We have to sort of narrow it down. If I am trying to look at a publicly available information, like my website is accessible to the whole world. So if I give ChatGPT or somebody saying, hey, here is the data from my website that you should ingest, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It is going to ingest anyway, but it might not have had a chance because it had a cutoff in 22 somewhere. Similarly, if I have a certain corporate writing style or my way of writing, and I can give it to that tool, nothing private about it. It's a public information. So why not feed that kind of an information to the tool? And especially for marketing content, it is really great. because ultimately it's going to go out again in the real world. So it doesn't really matter. Now, on the other hand, let's say I'm doing something and building an HR policy thing, which is going to be very private to me, or it has a lot of my enterprise data. It has my sales data or something else. I don't want that to go anywhere. So for that particular information, I shouldn't be feeding it to the tool unless and until I am convinced that this is private to me. Now, the question is, if you look at like what Amazon is doing and what Microsoft is doing, and even ChatGPT, OpenAI is going to be doing, is that there is an enterprise version where you can put, they will say, we will not use your private data, that will stay with you. So that is kind of one way to get your feet wet, if you might. But if you are a very large company, that is a no-no either. So if you're a very large company, I think you should think about, hey, should I create my private LLMs? And they are easy to acquire and I can use them and then build my own models. So it depends, right? So if I'm a small company, I can't afford to do that. I shouldn't be bothering with it. Then medium path is probably better for me.
So I can imagine, even if, you want to create your private LLMs, you want to implement some of this technology that's out there. Now, sometimes that could cause, budget restraints and also capabilities. You may not have the capability to implement all of these things. So that requires an implementation partner. And so what would be your advice for an organization that's looking for an implementation partner? What are some things that they should be looking for?
So again, let's slice and dice the problem, right? If I am a small company and I am experimenting, or I'm a large company, I want to experiment in my marketing group where there is not much of a proprietary information, I think I should let my teams that are already running this to develop that expertise in-house, don't go out. However, if there is a consultant or some organization that has already done some work, use them. Or if there are companies that have built specific tools as a starting point, which can cut down your time, please use them. Now, if I am on the other path where I want to build some of this, but there are a ready set of tools that are available from the likes of Microsoft and Amazon and Google, that is something any programmer should be able to learn to help you do that. And so that should require, because you're not doing any model building at this stage. You're basically using what is there. Then comes kind of the next stage of, do I need to build RAGs or do I need to do my own private LLMs and so on? And that's where the question comes up is, should I take my internal teams and train them? Can I wait? Should I hire the new people and all that? So if you are building models from scratch, probably you need somebody who has the model building experience, and that is not going to come easily. Hiring that is very, very hard because everybody's trying to hire them. But there are enough services companies that have come up who have kind of built some core repertoire that you can bring them and they can help you in the short term. But long term, you have to develop this skill in-house. So I would say you should invest in doing that. But if your business is just doing this, then you better be good at it, because there are many companies that are coming in whose job it is to really do these tools and essentially sell you the end user product. So for them, there is no choice. They should get very good at it. But from the enterprise point of view, it is going to vary in the degree of how much you want to really do and at what stage you want to do it. There are a lot of consulting companies that are coming up to speed, but frankly, they are also learning at the same speed as your teams might be if you are willing to put the resources. But if your people are doing their day job and at the same time they have to learn the new thing, it's probably not going to be very practical.
Right. And so you mentioned tools. And so I just want to get a little practical with some that may be looking for some specific tools that they could experiment with, because, it is an experimental process. And so could you give us a few tools that you think is a must, or some tools that you think organizations could experiment with, just a few to get started?
I think I'll probably, at least for the marketing side of it, where I spend a lot of my time, and on the sales side of it, I would say ChatGPT, having the $20 per month version or an enterprise version is a good start. And I would use that in conjunction with Bard. Right now, I don't know whether I'll pay for the new version of Bard that Google just launched because I don't have an experience on it. But if it does deliver the multimedia things that they claim in the same model, it probably be very interesting. There are also products like Jasper and Copy and so on and so forth that are coming in who are very focused at the marketing and sales end of it. And so that kind of circle you would use. And then I think Microsoft just launched, I have not had a chance to try it out, their Copilot, which I'm told is also going to be advertised in Super Bowl. So people will run and buy that probably very quickly. And then after 2 months, they'll drop it because they would have found that they actually didn't use it very much. So I think it's good to get your feet wet and at least understand how it is and how it will help your organization. Now, if on the coding side, I think people should start using the copilots if they are not using it. That is something which is probably going to help in the efficiency. And then if you are really experimenting in the organization with your own data and trying to do different things, then I think you need to kind of up the skill level so you can actually start these various open source LLMs as a starting point. Even though I know Microsoft and Amazon and Google also offer you that rich library of where to get started.
Yeah. So that's awesome. You gave some amazing insights on today. And so I've just been sitting here, just gotten curious with all this technology out there, all of the changes that's going on. And obviously more changes are on the horizon. So if you had an opportunity to take someone to lunch in the field of AI, who would that person be?
I'm going to give you a very unconventional answer, and I'll tell you why that is too. I would actually like to take somebody like Trevor Noah out to lunch for this and talk about AI. So you would say, why him? He's not an AI guy. Because I think he has interviewed more people on the AI things and has a perspective of Sam Altman, Bill Gates, and Microsoft, head of AI and all these things, where I think he would even have a broader perspective on what they all think versus one person giving their perspective and telling me why their product is better.
That's amazing. And so just a reminder, if you happen to get an invitation to that lunch or happen to book that lunch, remember you have my email address and send me an invitation too. So I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
I thought you will get an invitation before me. So I was hoping you will remember this and say, okay, Paul, I'll also invite you when I get this.
I'll definitely do that. And so, Paul, it has been a pleasure on today, and you provided some amazing insights. And so to our listeners, be sure to tune in for our next episode.
Thank you very much. It's been fun. Thanks a lot, Nicholas.
How to Grow Using AI, Machine Learning, and Intelligent Automation is brought to you by eClerx. For more information about services and how we can help your business leverage the power of AI and machine learning, visit our website at www.eclerx.com. That's www.eclerx.com. Don't forget to search for How to Grow Using AI, Machine Learning, and Intelligent Automation on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our episodes. On behalf of everyone here at eClerx, thanks for listening.